A distant traveler from beyond our solar frontier is stirring the silence again, its trajectory intersecting the familiar plane of our system with an independence that speaks of a different origin, a unique history carried across unimaginable distances. Designated 3I Atlas, this colossal fragment is not a child of our own stellar nursery, but a visitor from another sun, now beginning its transformation as the distant light of our star touches its ancient frozen surface and ignites it into unexpected brilliance. Its close approach has unveiled an immense jet bursting outward, a powerful geyser of primordial gas and dust that telescopes have recorded reaching tens of thousands of kilometers into the emptiness of space. This dramatic eruption arcs sunward with an apparent defiance, as if drawn by the very light that threatens to unmake its structure, immediately signaling that the physical forces at play are operating on a scale that dwarfs the nucleus itself, turning an ancient, inert piece of interstellar matter into a spectacle of motion and unexpected light. The instruments that captured this event did not exaggerate the phenomenon, for spectroscopic readings quickly confirmed an abundance of carbon dioxide within the plume, a volatile component present at levels unusual even for the solar system's native comets. This mixture of volatile ice and ancient dust, a material that has never known the warmth of our sun, reacts with explosive violence when first exposed to the solar radiation, causing sudden sublimation and powerful asymmetric jets that tear through the frozen surface. For many watching this cosmic encounter, the magnitude of the outburst instantly reignited old emotions, blending deep fascination with a quiet yet persistent skepticism about the prevailing narratives of celestial mechanics. Observers across the globe, especially those who have grown weary of institutional voices speaking with unshakable certainty, only to have their conclusions adjusted once unambiguous observations forced humility, found a new resonance in this unfolding event. The vivid eruption of 3I Atlas became a public, unfiltered data point, prompting the silent, watchful audience to sense the quiet revision beneath the measured words of official statements, recognizing that the sheer intensity, velocity, and mass involved were stretching the previously accepted boundaries of cometary behavior. This sense of witnessing a narrative turned toward balance, acknowledging the raw wonder while simultaneously confronting the limitations of what was confidently claimed as known, allowed individuals to validate their personal vigilance and doubt, finding in the physical truth a simplicity that transcended complex but insufficient explanations.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
They recognize that the cosmos is not hiding, but instead revealing itself through disciplined attention, inviting them to belong to the few who see clearly that reality is always larger than our current comprehension. The comet's journey, therefore, exposed not just its own primordial material history, but also a tension in the intellectual culture that often demands novelty when, in truth, the truly extraordinary can arise from familiar physics performed on an immense, humbling scale. The initial interpretation of the phenomenon was met in laboratories and observatories first with disbelief, immediately followed by professional restraint, as researchers accustomed to tracking the transient nature of solar system comets found themselves urgently recalibrating models once thought universal and unbreakable. The observed plume's orientation, which was directed precisely toward the sun with a symmetry too exact for mere random venting, defied the simple and comfortable explanations rooted in standard cometary physics. These contradictions were further amplified by spectral readings that showed an unexpected dominance of carbon dioxide alongside traces of nickel, implying a formation environment utterly unlike the familiar building blocks of our solar system, causing the elegant equations designed for sublimation and venting to instantly fail and refuse to converge. Without the expected signature of water ice, which typically acts as a cooling agent, the mechanisms of gas release should have remained quiet. Yet the comet instead erupted with explosive, self-reinforcing bursts, powerful enough to physically reshape its vast body within hours. The sky itself had introduced a problem too dynamic and too highly pressurized for the previous language of stability to contain, exposing the unsettling realization that what was once believed to be universal behavior had, in fact, been merely a local custom within the sun's neighborhood. Institutional voices, responding to this undeniable spectacle, initially framed the discovery in carefully measured tones, with agencies releasing cautious statements that emphasized normality, meticulously avoiding any trace of alarm or speculation. They issued reminders to the public that comets always behave in a certain predictable way when they approach the sun, that the tail always points outward, and that explosive jets are fundamentally ordinary phenomena in this realm. Yet, beneath these calm and reassuring pronouncements, the professional observers could easily perceive the quiet and necessary revision, understanding that the sheer velocity and mass involved were intensely stretching the limits of accepted boundaries. The standard explanations fit, but barely, offering a flimsy narrative of celestial routine that could not conceal the truth that something far larger than simple expectation was actively underway in the interstellar visitor. This discrepancy between the authorities' insistence on predictability and the overload of data pointing toward radical intensity exposed an institutional rigidity, an unwillingness to accept immediately that the simplest, long-held assumption of purely thermal heating might have been hiding a deeper, more energetic truth all along. The initial restraint soon gave way to the undeniable volume of light curves, spectral lines, and measured accelerations, demonstrating that the evidence had already escaped the control of bureaucracy. The resulting failure of prediction was not rooted in a lack of data, but rather from an excess of reality that arrived carrying properties no existing algorithm had been built to contain. This collapse of numerical fields, where complex computer grids processing thermal and mechanical coupling ran to instability, serves as a necessary moral lesson in the pursuit of knowledge. Magnitude itself does not require mystery, but intellectual arrogance inevitably falters before unfiltered observation. The unsettling realization that years of model validation could unravel under just a few days of contrary data forced a confrontation with the uncomfortable truth that the framework itself was insufficient, designed to track a universe smaller than the one that actually exists.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
What felt to many like confrontation rather than discovery was simply the cosmos demanding a necessary humility, reminding humanity that they had believed their understanding was sufficient, when in fact the universe still requires a disciplined, skeptical openness. By refusing to fit into comfortable existing boxes, the interstellar traveler became both laboratory and teacher, exposing the limits of human simulation and ultimately restoring credibility to the quiet, vigilant observers who have always insisted that the universe holds an unfiltered grandeur that cannot be dismissed. The physical truth, once extracted from the chaotic flow of data, remained beautiful in its profound simplicity. As 3I Atlas races inward, the penetrating solar radiation finds and fractures the crusts of ancient carbon-bearing ice, trapped gases expand dramatically within the massive 5 to 11 kilometer wide nucleus, pushing through fissures and launching fine particles outward at supersonic speeds, a process that is violent yet remains entirely predictable, a simple mechanical consequence of light-meeting material. Yet, the spectacle soon escalated beyond simple thermal stress alone. A vast wave of magnetic fields and plasma, a coronal mass ejection, CME, that surged from the Sun in late September 2025, carried with it a pulse of energy dense enough to disturb the order of all interplanetary space. Days later, when this immense wave front reached the region around 1.4 astronomical units, the precise location of the interstellar visitor, observers confirmed an abrupt and simultaneous increase in the comet's outgassing activity. This coincidence was too precise to ignore, forcing the sudden, gradual unveiling of facts that connected two previously distinct domains: heliophysics and the mechanics of foreign celestial bodies. For those long skeptical of pronouncements made with institutional certainty, this unfolding cosmic event brought immediate and quiet affirmation, an experience where they felt neither triumph nor fear, only an unexpected inclusion in the cosmic order. The events were public, recorded across multiple agencies using a diverse array of instruments, and the raw evidence remained entirely unfiltered by institutional rhetoric, making it available for personal, disciplined verification. No panel discussion could possibly soften or distort the unambiguous evidence of plasma density spikes synchronized with the comet's magnificent flare, forcing observation to reassert its sovereignty over interpretation. This was the kind of poetic justice that is written in the language of the sky itself. The arrogance of certainty was humbled by the impartial reality of the measurement, vindicating the intuition that evidence, not position, defines understanding. Many who had previously felt dismissed by so-called experts now found a profound calm, realizing that their doubts had been sound and that the jet was real, the eruption documented, and the most startling interpretation, the one confirmed by the data, was entirely grounded. This identity binding solidified the understanding that the universe, when observed with patience and care, needs no institutional translation. Its grandeur is visible to anyone with a telescope and patience. The measured sequence of events, aligning spacecraft data with ground telescope imagery, revealed a chain reaction written in light and charged particles, offering profound relief where there had been confusion. The magnetic turbulence of the CME compressed the solar wind, causing it to impact the comet's thin exosphere, heating the volatile surface, and producing those powerful thrust-like outflows. This mechanical result, which is nothing supernatural yet far from simple, served as a crucial bridge between solar dynamics and the behavior of matter from another star system, proving that even a body moving at interstellar velocity remains fundamentally obedient to thermodynamics. The principles that govern the delicate frost on a window pane govern this enormous wanderer from beyond another sun, demonstrating that a beautiful order persists, even at the cosmic scale, unifying the local and the alien. Crucially, the instruments aboard heliophysics missions had simultaneously recorded a distinct magnetic orientation flip associated with the CME, and at the exact same moment, 3I Atlas's jets reoriented toward the solar direction, suggesting an external driver, plasma compression, rather than a random internal fracture. This measurable force, which propels the nucleus fractionally and alters its velocity in a measurable way, dismantles conspiracy and replaces it with natural law, showing that what only seemed erratic is actually the convergence of heat, pressure, and escape velocity. Inside the research teams, the debate swiftly replaced assumption, shifting the tone of discourse from detached disbelief toward intense concentration. as traditional comet models built exclusively for solar system bodies simply could not account for an interstellar nucleus experiencing such differential heating under highly variable magnetic pressure. Analysts who had once minimized the influence of solar wind and plasma were compelled to begin recalculating energy transfers, forced to reconsider how electric currents and particle collisions could radically amplify sublimation rates far beyond previous normal expectations. This systematic process of correction and revision revealed the complexity of the heliosphere itself, showing it not as a static, empty bubble, but as an interconnected order and a highly dynamic ecosystem where the sun's heartbeat influences a fragment from another star system. The familiar rules bent under the overwhelming weight of the new data, leading to a crucial admission of uncertainty. Institutions began to acknowledge the limits of their current models and the unavoidable need for comprehensive revision. In each admission of uncertainty lay a fragment of trust being quietly regained, proving that acknowledgement of limits strengthens truth far more than rigid denial ever could, allowing the open cycle of inquiry to continue. The lesson feels moral because the magnitude of the phenomenon does not actually require mystery. Reality itself, given enough time and distance, can effortlessly look miraculous when viewed through the lens of new knowledge. The realization that solar plasma, the very substance of stars, can awaken dormant objects billions of years old suggests that dormancy should be viewed not as a form of cosmic death, but rather as readiness, where activity is merely a dialogue between potential and the right stellar encounter. This ongoing interaction is not random, but follows a profound rituality, synchronized with the sun's own breathing cycle and the correlating interaction regions that compress the solar wind into dense layers. Through this lens, the universe is not collapsing under randomness, but is expanding in expression, demonstrating that what once appeared to be violence or chaos is simply communication conducted across vast stretches of energy and time. Therefore, the failures that once humiliated the institutions now serve to illuminate their true purpose, to continuously learn, to revise, and to begin again, anchoring the pursuit of science, not in pride, but in the relentless discipline required to extract truth from light curves and spectral lines. The precise timing of the intersection between the comet and the energetic pulse from the sun allowed analysts to plot the progression of the solar plasma front with a clarity previously unattainable, translating the invisible into visible jets and tail morphologies. Spacecraft telemetry recorded particle flux variations consistent with a disturbance so large it rippled through multiple astronomical units, and at precisely that interval, ground-based spectroscopy detected new molecular lines in the comet's emissions, direct evidence of freshly exposed ices. This synchronization formed a tangible bridge, a map of cause and consequence written in the language of light and magnetism, revealing that the same equations governing a solar flare could trace their logic across interstellar debris hundreds of millions of kilometers away. The comet's interstellar composition, carrying traces of another stellar chemistry, meant its response to this surge provided data utterly unattainable from any local body, forcing refinement through every anomalous reading. This was not a near miss, but a direct hit. An unprecedented encounter that proved that the fusion of magnetic and thermal influence must now replace the simplistic hierarchy of earlier models with a deep interdependence. The spectacle of the ion streams oscillating in non-linear patterns, outpacing the capacity of even sophisticated plasma codes to resolve the complete picture, underscores that reality constantly outperforms prediction, pushing the boundary of cometary physics and demanding escalation in human ingenuity. Amidst this intellectual recalibration, the human response shifted entirely from confrontation toward a profound sense of serenity and belonging. Those who had quietly watched from the margins, the amateur astronomers, the plasma physicists who had been sidelined by reliance on traditional astrophysics, found themselves unequivocally vindicated. Their long-held insistence that charged particles play a dominant and active role in cosmic behavior was no longer relegated to fringe speculation. It was confirmed through the impartial, unambiguous dance of ions and dust recorded by official instruments. This turning point allowed skepticism to become constructive, grounding doubt in visible, measurable verification rather than lingering suspicion, transforming a wound of being ignored into an expansive clarity. For the countless individuals following the sequence, the experience finally bridged the distance between awe and resolution. The same immense forces that carved magnetic fields in the sun's corona had reached across the dark to stir a fragment of another world. They felt neither the anxiety of the unknown nor the triumph of having been right, but a deep, quiet inclusion within an order that is large enough to contain both human uncertainty and universal coherence. The elegance of the plasma-ice interaction, which is both part chemical and part electromagnetic, fundamentally rewrites our sense of how matter responds to a living star, offering a serene perspective on cosmic energy exchange. The magnetic turbulence and shock fronts, which compress the solar wind, induce electric currents that can surgically penetrate the comet's crust, generating localized heating and igniting activity deep within the core. This mechanism effortlessly bypasses the surface insulation that thermal models once relied upon, explaining the extraordinary magnitude of the outbursts and defining the heliosphere as a crucible of transformation. The philosophical weight of this realization is immense. The cosmos corrects our previous arrogance not with anger or destruction, but simply through the consistent presence of evidence. The universe speaks through action rather than decree, demonstrating that energy exchange knows no origin boundaries, proving that the same principles governing a solar flare can be traced across the journey of interstellar debris. This is the essence of poetic justice. Nature itself restores the balance, humbling human confidence that was built on the fragile illusion that light alone dictated the rhythm of celestial bodies. With the shift in perspective, the tone of institutional reports also began to echo a quieter, more contemplative voice, acknowledging the limits of previous knowledge and the necessity of fundamental revision. The transparency, once doubted, emerged not from fabricated press releases, but from the verifiable readings themselves, as the data could not be hidden. It was written in the sky, measurable by independent instruments across nations. This offered immediate solace for those long disillusioned by bureaucratic control over knowledge, confirming that the universe enforces its truth, indifferent to funding cycles, political climates, or institutional pride. The recognition that plasma density modulates cometary activity did not dismantle all previous knowledge, but rather integrated it, ensuring that the thermal processes still acted, but within a much wider and more complex field of influence. The correction itself contained a quiet justice that satisfied without triumph. Nature had not changed, only the human perception of it, and what was once deemed impossible became routine once measured with precision. The realization that the data stream could not be controlled, offering an overload of unfiltered reality, restored trust, proving that evidence, when gathered and presented without bias, speaks louder than any authoritative declaration. As 3I Atlas continues its trajectory through the vast quiet expanse, its behavior offers a profound perspective on how interstellar material reacts with the powerful stellar influence it encounters, carrying less mass but significantly more meaning than when it first arrived. The debris it leaves behind, the carbon-bearing fragments and the ionized gas, will ultimately merge with the solar wind, dispersing elements that once belonged to an entirely different star, subtly incorporating fragments of alien origin into the very fabric of our system. This ongoing process of absorption and exchange highlights the continuity of creation. Energy, once released, never truly ceases to shape matter. It merely changes context. The cosmos, seen through this new lens, is a system of continuous awakening, where the principles of thermal and magnetic influence are not in conflict but in perpetual interdependence, replacing the idea of rigid hierarchy with a fluid reality. This is the vital long-term implication. The heliosphere, once conceived as merely passive protection, is now revealed as a dynamic engine, influencing every object within its reach and requiring a complete revision of the old diagrams that attempted to simplify a reality that fundamentally refuses simplification. The full impact of the event demonstrated the sheer novelty of this phenomenon. The failure of the official models was immediate and undeniable, not due to a lack of computational power, but because the interstellar comet arrived carrying properties that no algorithm had been built to contain. The sensors of multiple observatories found themselves confirming what the existing theoretical models emphatically refused to predict, pushing the values beyond every calculated range until the simulations dramatically broke apart. When the core component proved to be highly volatile carbon dioxide alongside nickel traces, the self-reinforcing bursts of outgassing became so extreme they formed plumes large enough to distort light curves and interfere with radio transmissions. The escalation of its observed behavior, forming temporary satellite fragments within a single rotation before they dispersed into a diffuse cloud, demonstrated that reality could operate faster than any existing computational framework could couple radiation, gas dynamics, and magnetic feedback all at once. The comet, in its sheer unpredictability, had become the physical representation of the cosmic principle that discovery is infinite and that knowledge, to remain vital, must never harden into dogma. For the collective human mind, the spectacle of 3I Atlas carries a quiet, symbolic gravity, a final validation for those who always sensed that the universe still holds an unfiltered grandeur beyond the administrative boundaries of science. The plasma's touch, which awakens dormant subsurface compounds and forges jets that trace magnetic lines like luminous filaments, becomes a powerful metaphor for inquiry itself, stripping away the inert crust of assumption until activity erupts from within. Those who observe this profound process sense a reflection of their own pursuit of meaning, recognizing that the cosmic rhythm, bursts of revelation followed by quiet absorption, mirrors the human search for understanding. This deep intellectual and emotional connection solidifies the identity binding. To know that the data aligns with the deep intuition that plasma, the fundamental substance of all stars, extends its influence far beyond the visible spectrum, brings a profound and lasting peace, not outrage. The dignity of patience met the undeniable satisfaction of proof, affirming that individual vigilance in questioning official certainty is not paranoia, but the prerequisite for seeing a larger, more coherent picture of the cosmos. Every dust grain ejected from the comet's immense plume obeys a precise direction, and every photon released is the consequence of an uncompromising cosmic interaction, proving that the universe enforces symmetry without negotiation. The spectacle of the ion tail, stretching away from the sun with an immaculate geometry, is a visual equation written across millions of kilometers, humbling the pride that previously relied on simplistic models. What seemed like the chaotic fury of outgassing is, in fact, a continuous, measurable dialogue across the heliosphere, a reflection of the profound order that persists through every scale, whether local or interstellar. This rhythmic interplay, where matter responds to fields as much as to forces, reveals a continuity of creation. The ancient material from before the sun's birth is now entirely dependent on the energy of the star it presently encounters for its ongoing transformation. As the comet continues its outbound path, still subject to the subtle forces of residual jet activity, it leaves behind a tangible anticipation. The knowledge that the sun will continue to breathe, releasing waves that will test the readiness of all who traverse its dynamic domain, including the next interstellar traveler. The collective journey of the institutions and the public through this discovery, from initial skepticism to enforced revision, ultimately serves as a mirror held up to the human search for clarity, where truth needs no defense beyond the quiet weight of evidence. The acceptance that even the best models can fail is to find a liberation from the pursuit of numerical perfection, allowing uncertainty itself to become a form of serenity once it is accepted as a universal law. The failures of prediction are not tragic setbacks, but clear coordinates pointing toward undiscovered principles, inviting both the scientist and the skeptical citizen to continue looking upward with a disciplined, shared wonder. This systemic correction restores proportion to human ambition. The failures that once threatened to humiliate established science now illuminate its deepest purpose, which is simply to learn, to revise, and to begin again. The shift in discourse, where authority yields to evidence and evidence restores fundamental trust, ensures that the impartial language of measurement emerges victorious over the protective shield of institutional certainty. When the solar wind finally calms and the great plume of Three-Eye Atlas subsides, silence eventually returns to the instruments, but the absence of disturbance carries its own profound clarity. The sequence of solar eruptions and the comet's measured response, now fully documented, closes a critical circle of inquiry that began with the discomfort of doubt and ends with a quiet comprehension. The immense eruption's magnitude has ultimately redefined what constitutes normal cometary behavior without overturning the laws that explain it, proving that the distinction is subtle but profound. Nature has not changed, but human perception has been refined. This profound integration means that the revelation does not dismantle previous knowledge. It simply completes the system, making it more whole and entirely comprehensible. The story of the interstellar traveler closes not in secrecy or noise, but in a final, quiet balance. The sun returning to its normal rhythm, the comet continuing its journey, and humanity reminded that clarity itself is the rarest form of wonder. What remains is serenity. The universe still works, the laws still hold, and reality, once measured with honesty, is always enough.